Hello, everybody. Welcome to the webinar on the Tale of Retail. Here, we'll be focusing on transforming your supply chain with the power of AI and machine learning. With me, it's my privilege and honor to have Amit Rai, the customer engineer at Google. Amit, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Manju. Hello, everyone. Super excited to be here. My name is Amit Rai. I am a customer engineer at Google. I bring more than a decade of experience working with enterprises on a variety of data-driven solutions. At Google, I help enterprises adopt and accelerate their data analytics and AI ML initiative. Looking forward to our conversation today with Manju.
Great. Thank you, Amit. For the audience, my name is Manju Devdas. I'm the founder CEO of Pluto 7. Pluto 7 is a strategic partner engaging with Google in enabling machine learning and AI for real business transformation. Over the last few years, we have been working with hundreds of customers, putting them on a journey of exploration to mass adoption. I do sit on the advisory of University of Southern California, evaluating how supply chain world is evolving, bringing those aspects, whether it's COVID related or non-COVID related, into transformation. Enabling that through the power of machine learning AI are some of the things that we have made material difference to our business between us at Pluto 7 and Google. We look forward to sharing many of those learnings through the course of this webinar. Thank you for joining us.
So today, we are going to talk about how artificial intelligence and machine learning is positively impacting supply chain and how businesses who are able to leverage those technologies are able to take decisions much faster than their competition. So I'm going to talk about some of the trends in artificial intelligence and machine learning, but then we'll also take a look at it, like why it is not as easy as it seems, right? We will take a look at like what Google and Pluto 7 is doing to democratize machine learning so that you have business analysts, developers who are available today, the kind of resources, the kind of skill set you have available today, they can really leverage those technology to make a positive influence on the business. We will also take a look at the demo of some of these solutions. We'll talk about how some of our customers are already implementing these solutions and what kind of results they are seeing. And then we'll, towards the end, we'll also talk about how you can reach out to us and how you can start leveraging these solutions sooner than later. So we all know that AI ML is one of the most exciting technologies today. Almost every business leader we talk to today, they are trying to leverage AI and machine learning some shape or form. Right? And when we start to break down like what AI and machine learning is, this kind of shows a very high level of overview of like where each of these technologies fit in, what kind of problems each of these solutions are trying to solve. What I wanted to highlight here was that a couple of things, right? When we think about artificial intelligence, then it's essentially the set of, it essentially looks at the set of the problems where we think that machines can act like humans, right? So basically where you're not telling machines to do, where you're not building rules, where machines can have intuitions, but they can start to perceive their environment and they can start to take some actions. And it's an active area of research. What more and more businesses are doing today is applying machine learning, which is a subclass of artificial intelligence. And what machine learning does is it takes a look at the historical data, the events which have happened in the past, and based on those events, based on that data, it builds an intuition around what kind of action should it take. We can call it predictive analytics, and we can call it machine learning, artificial intelligence. There are different names that people use. But simply what it does is basically it replaces a rules engine by looking at the data and driving the intuitions itself, right? So when you think of machine learning in that terms, you think about it like where you can use it, right? You can use it to solve very hard problems, which are very complex, which cannot fit in a box, a solution where you can define a set of rules, right? But you can also think of a machine learning as a potential replacement for the rules-based system that you have today. If you have system where you hand code rules, and if you have adequate data, there's a good chance that machine learning might be able to solve that class of problem as well. And machine learning has advance further in a set of areas where people are starting to work with unstructured data. Think of videos, audio, image files, text, right? And these are the use cases which we are seeing garnering more and more traction. These are traditionally very hard problems to automate, which machine learning has been able to solve. So when I look at Google, I see the adoption and increase in the adoption of AI and ML over the years. In Google, Google is an AI first company, and we try to embed AI and ML wherever possible. If you are using a Google product or a Google Cloud solution, there's a very high degree of possibility that there is an AI and ML embedded somewhere within there. But it does not happen overnight. It takes a lot of effort to get to a point where you become an AI first company. But we are seeing that transformation already happening within the industry. At Google, we are working with lots of enterprises who are rapidly adopting AI and ML, and they are seeing very tangible benefits of adopting these solutions. So we see these impacts coming to retailers, to logistic companies, in manufacturing industries, in all kind of businesses. We are seeing AI-driven solutions being applied much more than what it was a few years ago. In fact, Google commissioned a research, and they worked together with MIT. And the research basically concluded that the companies or the businesses who can use AI and ML can drive decisions much faster than their competitors. AI and ML also helps improve the executions for these businesses, right? And it's not only limited to supply chain, but what we are seeing, especially during the pandemic, that supply chain solutions which are adopting AI and ML can see these kind of impact within a very short amount of time. With that said, why isn't everybody adopting AI and ML? Well, we did some internal studies with retailers, with department stores, and what we found out was that because of the excitement of AI and machine learning and the art of the possible with AI and machine learning, a lot customers are trying to see if they can leverage AI and ML in their current processes to optimize their current solutions. And we see almost 60% of the retailers have more than 20 pilots in progress where they want to apply AI and machine learning solutions. Right? But as we start going through the journey of putting AI and ML solutions in production, we start to see a trend where only a small portion of these solutions make it to the production. And when these solutions reach to production, what we are finding is that less and less solutions have very high value. More of these solutions are not kind of driving as much impact as businesses would have initially thought. So in that sense, lots of businesses or the users we are seeing who are trying out AI ML are not able to derive full value of machine learning with their current solutions. AI and ML remains to be challenging to adopt in an impactful way. So, but why is that happening? Before I tell you why that's happening, let me talk about this, like the common perception, what people think about when they think about AI and machine learning, right? In general, when I talk to users, a lot of even executives, there's a perception that you throw lots of data to a machine learning model. There's some kind of magic happening under the hood, and then you get a result. You get a model that can do any kind of stuff for you, right? Well, I wish it was this simple. In reality, when we go and build a machine learning solution, you still feel that this is the way that people are doing that, right? You still, if a data scientist starts with particular exploration, they try to take some data, spend some time in cleaning, build a model, and then you would expect that that model will automatically get in production and start to drive value. But that's not the real world use case. In reality, this is what a machine learning process looks like. And it's not even a linear process, right? There are different stages in any kind of machine learning solution. So you start with data processing, you build ML models, you tune those models, you do a continuous evaluation on these models. Even after you put these models in production, you have to keep an eye on them, like, hey, how are these models behaving? Is the behavior in production similar to what my intuitions were when I was building the model? And then basically you go through that entire MLOps cycle where you update the model, where you again do the same thing. And what you'll notice is that, as I mentioned earlier, this is not a linear process. From each stage, You keep reverting back to the previous stage if the results are not satisfactory. So it's a highly iterative process, which itself is complex, and it requires lots of times. And by the time you reach to a stage where you have a viable model which you want to deploy in production, right? It has its own set of complications, which we will not dwell deeper in today. So there's another problem. So that was one challenge we saw earlier. The other challenge is, if I ask you, like within your organization, how many machine learning researchers or how many data scientists are there, right? You can probably count on your fingertips for most organizations, if not for everyone, right? So, and that's the case for the entire industry. So if I look at the state of industry today, almost every organization has a lot more developer, has a lot more business users than they have ML researchers or deep learning researchers. And the basic idea remains is that you can truly become an AI first company, or you can start to leverage the AI at scale only if you make it available to masses. Right. So when I'm looking at developers and business users at Google, it is our deliberate effort to make sure that AI and machine learning is available and accessible to these users in addition to the researchers and ML experts. And we have started to see some tangible benefits coming out of it. We have started to see the developers and business analysts who are using these AI and embedded solutions can really help transform business in a way not seen before. In fact, when I talked about how Google has adopted AI and ML over the period of time, basically this is something which we have noticed at Google as well. As soon as we started adopting AI and ML at scale, we saw a significant shift in the way our people at Google think, the people how they have started applying AI and ML, right? When you start to democratize AI and ML to these users, then basically you start coming up with the ideas ideas around like how each and every product basically can leverage this in some shape or form, right? It also kind of opens up your users, like developers and business users, to think in terms of data first solutions. So what is Google doing in that space? Well, we recently launched a Vertex AI solutions, which provides a very complete suite of products and solutions for building AI ML products. Right. This is a platform where we were very deliberate in designing and building. We wanted to make sure that the data scientists and deep learning researchers have a first-class experience and have all the tools they need to build these platforms, build these solutions. But then we also wanted to make sure that the other crop of users we talked about, the developers, the business analysts, who usually do not have access to machine learning solutions, has access to those solutions as well. We wanted to make sure that these users can deliberately apply AI and machine learning in the products and solutions that they are developing. So this is a lot, right? Where should you get started with at Google? Well, when we talk about democratizing AI and ML, we have quite a few solutions which can help you very easily get started with applying AI and machine learning. If you have an idea, if you want to explore whether that idea is worth pursuing or not through AI and ML, there are great solutions which can help even developers and business analysts get started, right? I'll quickly touch upon this, and then we'll take a look at some of these in detail later on. But I'll start first with the AI solutions. So these are a kind of product offered out of the box where the AI and ML is embedded in these solutions, right? So we have document AI, recommendation AI, we have AI solutions for optimizing your fleets. These are the solutions which you can embed today with your current stack and start leveraging the power of AI and ML. We also have a lot of marketplace solutions offered by our wonderful partners, and Manju is going to talk a lot about like how Pluto 7 is using those solutions to accelerate AI and ML at lots of our customers. Then we have pre-trained machine learning APIs. These are the machine learning solutions which has been trained by Google on our own data and made accessible to you. So if you have complex problems like speech to text, or if you want to do a natural language recognition solution, right? You can start using those APIs upfront. It does not require any kind of data science skills. So these are easy to use, accessible APIs, which you can embed within any application. So far we have talked about the solutions where you do not even need your data to train a machine learning model. but that doesn't always work. Sometimes you have very specific domain specific problems for which these generalized solutions may not be perfect. In that case, basically, you can graduate to building your own custom AI solutions, the wonderful solutions we talked about earlier, with your own data. But we also want to make sure that that experience or that those solutions are again available to all sort of users and not just limited to few people in the organization. So we have a solution cloud offering called Cloud Auto ML, which basically where you put your data in, we provide it a certain data, and it will build the machine learning model for you automatically. It is accessible through APIs and SDKs, but we also have a GUI interface to Cloud Console, which you can use to build and deploy your machine learning models. You do not have to write any code. I'll be very specific. So Auto ML does the feature engineering, model training, hyperparameter tuning. A lot of that takes care of a lot of that stuff for you, and you can deploy your models in production right from there. Over the period of time, I'm also seeing like data scientists adopting this. For a data scientist or a researcher, AutoML provides a great baseline model. They understand that what AutoML can do, and they can get the feature importance from AutoML. And they are also using AutoML as a tool for feature selection. But beyond that, like if there are users in an organization who are comfortable writing SQL, for example, data analysts, data engineers, or even data scientists, they can use our BigQuery machine learning solution to build model without moving their data anywhere. BigQuery is a data warehousing solution offered by Google Cloud, and it allows users to build very complex models within the database itself. And it takes away pain of a lot of the other problems that we talked about earlier, problems around moving the data, problems around operationalizing your model, problems around hyperparameter tuning. All of that you can do within BigQuery machine learning, and we'll spend some time to talk about it later today. With that said, I would hand over to Manju, who's going to talk in more detail about the kind of supply chain initiatives as well as the solutions that Pluto 7 brings on the table. Manju, over to you.
Thank you, Amit. That was an amazing session, and with a lot of insights in terms of how the market should be viewing AI, especially the point you made around democratization, which is essentially AI for everyone. And this is something that we have seen in many of our customer engagements on how customers perceive versus what AI in reality is. Amit, before I take it to the next stage of the conversation, I would like to ask you one question. How have you seen the customer narratives change over the last few years with AI?
That's a great question. And it's also hard to generalize. And why I said it is because if I look at the customers, specifically using Google Cloud, we have like lots of different varieties of customers. We have customers who are cloud native, digital first, and they started doing their work when AI machine learning was already in use, right? So they are early adopters of AI and machine learning, and we have seen them adopting AI and machine learning at scale where they are pushing boundaries of what AI and ML can do. But then we have other set of customers, traditional enterprises, who did not have access to these solutions or who were not leveraging some of these solutions because of either skill gap or other priorities, right? Over a period of time, we have seen them adopt AI ML as well. Specifically, if I take an example, like we recently published a research done by Google, where we saw that before 2021, only 20 to 25% manufacturers has AI and ML machine learning models in production. And in last 1 year, because of the shift created by pandemic, almost 70 to 80% of them are looking at these disruptive technologies around analytics, machine learning, and how it can help them to differentiate their offerings, but also automate a lot of their solutions, which are manual today. So I'm definitely seeing a very tangible shift in AI adoption, where businesses really want to scale their AI adoption. But the challenge still remains, as we talk about the democratization, right? The challenge to providing AI and ML at scale is making sure that it is democratized. It should not be limited to few users.
Great. Thank you, Amit. With that, let me take over the next stage of giving you a glimpse of what various customers are doing to adopt AI and how they are democratizing within their organization and how our solutions are helping with the same. In the next section, we'll give you not only an overview about what we do, but more importantly, how our customers are adopting machine learning and AI from various organizations within an enterprise or various skill sets and roles within an enterprise, truly reflecting democratization in some of these companies. To give you a very quick background about us, Pluto 7 is the Partner of the Year award winner for data and analytics, as we see data becoming a very key element in us, then enabling them with machine learning, AI, enabling marketing analytics, or application development. So when we take all of these skill sets and the specializations, we now are equipped to go and solve problems for our customers. And these problems could span across the marketing, sales, or supply chain functions. And within those, there are these use cases over here are some sample use cases. As an example, we'll pick demand forecasting today and go a little deeper in it. We'll be touching upon some of the other use cases as well. We have done this for hundreds of customers. And these customers, when we walk in, it's primarily the expertise that we bring in Google technologies, along with the solutions, which are our service accelerators, in understanding the customer's vision and translating that into a set of use cases and capabilities that they need during a business architecture stage, to then enabling a data foundation and data science platform for them as part of the smart analytics setup, and then showcasing how ML AI can solve the real business problem, as well as operationalizing it at scale. All of this, when you're solving a business problem, you might even need to enable automation capabilities that leverages some of Google's collaboration technologies or Google Workspace. These customers, whether it's retail, manufacturing, or many of these verticals, when we work with them, it's almost always about solving a problem or solving an innovative problem. We will pick some of these things as we go through the rest of the sessions. We will be talking about many of the retail stories coming up, but there's also a manufacturing story which I think has really resonated well with many people around the world. That's the AB InBev story in manufacturing, and they are a consumer packaged goods. There are 360 brands worldwide. Budweiser, Stella Artois, many of those beers are owned by this company. When we put a machine learning model in place to determine when a beer filter goes down, that model built over 6 weeks saved about $10 million, and that has a multiplier effect to enable in many breweries. This won the Gartner Innovation Award, Global Innovation Award. However, one of the things that I also want to highlight is, to Amit's point earlier, the adoption took much longer because of the various things that Amit mentioned. This was early stage in 2017, but since then, Google to the platform and capability have come a long way. As we go through the rest of it, I will be highlighting some of the retail successes. Before jumping into machine learning, AI, algorithms, the power of cloud, and all of those things, those are essential elements. I do want to reflect back on what Amit mentioned during his session. There is a perception that I have a lot of data, I can put all these algorithms and do all this math, and I'll magically get an output. Well, we all love magical output. When we don't know how it's done, it's exciting to see that. But it rarely you can rarely put that into adoption, into mass adoption, if you don't really understand what's going on behind the hood or under the hood. In that regard, when Google has been simplifying some of these things or democratizing, what it means really is demystifying it, so that it becomes evident and for everybody else to adopt, not just the ML engineers. With that in mind, the first and foremost step that is essential in every machine learning project is to really define the problem. Let's take a retail example in COVID-19 scenario. We are in a pandemic still, and when we started the pandemic, it was not clear how long it will take. There were different projections from 1 year to 5 years, and we are already almost about 16 months or 18 months in, and it continues. Now think about a retail scenario, right? What happens when manufacturing plants shut down, when the distribution centers shut down, when goods don't move the same way, and when the cost of goods go up, prices go up, and when there is demand where you didn't expect it, and it has long lead time. I can go on and on with various supply chain problems. The world that we saw in 2020, nobody imagined and simulated that for their enterprises for the most part. There are very few exception companies who simulate those things. But it happened. And yet retail companies adopted it. And not only that, it was not over. Now you're seeing a post-COVID effect in some countries, and some countries, COVID continues. We are living in a global economy. The part that you are goods that you use in one part of the world from a retail or a CPG company that most likely is manufactured by many companies, and that is assembled together and arrives at your location. Now, what happens behind the scene and how you reduce these pain is part of what Google Cloud and the AI capabilities are going to help. And let's talk about how. If you acknowledge that there is demand forecasting problem and there's a cascading effect to your retail with supply chain and all those, and if you reflect back with what Amit mentioned, which is not only is Google simplifying the whole AI and cloud, but also sharing the methodologies on how to improve change management, org assessment. Many of those methodologies are being published by Google, and we as a partner have created solution bundles to make it even simpler for you. We will be showcasing some of these things as we progress. If you look at the scenario what I described, wherein there is disruption across your retail supply chain all the way from the supplier to the store. Now, one of the fundamental things that customers have been struggling with, what is my visibility? And even if I have visibility, let's say I brought the data into one place, like something like BigQuery, it's a lot of data. It's continuous data. It is data that's in different forms. How can I mine that? I can't keep employing hundreds and thousands of people to keep watching the data as a dashboard. I need better capabilities. These are things customers ask. They don't necessarily always jump into give me an AI solution. AI can be a part of it, but we start with the problem, understand, truly demystify AI, and then apply AI where it brings true business outcomes versus where it doesn't. That's another point that Amit highlighted, where why do some projects fail, some projects succeed and go to mass adoptions. Those that are done not only give them ROI, but also opens up new doors to enable many other problem solving. For example, you might start with demand forecasting. Then you might realize that, hey, if you had real-time inventory tracking or prioritizing and ranking which inventory can you get more faster through a supplier, then you'll probably put AI here. Then you know that during Christmas there is shortage of trucks and carriers, and they have to prioritize. Maybe ML can apply here. And I can go on with this. Everything I described are real world scenarios that we have been working with customers. It's just that, like, to another point that Amit made, there's early adopters versus laggards. There's a spectrum. Different companies adopt AI at different stages. Bringing all these experiences into solution bundles and solution packages, we have put this in the marketplace. And some of the solutions are 60% pre-built. The idea behind it is every business is unique. You will need customization. But what this gives you is a package of your front end, ML, a data model, and some integrations. We'll take one of those examples and take it forward. In the scenario what I just explained, where customers are talking about, hey, I need better visibility into my supply chain. I need to be bringing a lot of data into one place. I need to be able to make automated decision. For the sake of what? For the sake of trying to do better business, to build more efficient business, whether it's demand forecast accuracy, they're at 70%, they want to hit 90% plus, or inventory carrying cost reduction, or many of the objectives that they have. We have been able to use AI and cloud capabilities to help achieve some of these. And this is part of the revolution that is in progress now. We will take one of these problems, go a little deeper, and see how these technologies have got democratized through these solutions. As a
Yeah,
part of
Manju,
this, yeah.
Sorry
Go
to
ahead.
interrupt you, but if we go back, like if our users look at these solutions, can they use your marketplace solutions to start building these their solution frameworks? Can they integrate that easily?
Absolutely. What we provide is, think of it as a set of data models, tables, sample data, ML models, and a framework which will install in their GCP instance. They can, because it will run in their GCP instance, they can not only modify it, customize it, but they can integrate with their solutions or their own either on-premise or integrate with the on-premise system to bring data into cloud, or expand extend it to solve their other problems. So in short, yes, the answer is yes.
That's great. I can immediately see how valuable that is. Thank you.
Thank you. And to build upon what the comment I just made, it's really about bringing data into one place and then enabling ML and AI. There are various variations of ML and AI Amit spoke about. BQML is one of them, which is truly helping democratize, and we'll touch upon that. Along with that, we'll touch upon other ML capabilities as well. In an oversimplified manner, if you look at the problems that retailers and supply chain organizations and manufacturing logistic distributors are commonly looking for is better visibility, better planning, better decision making. The Everything that happens under that is technology for them, but this is the outcomes that they're looking for. And irrespective of what kind of data that you have, it could be audio, video, text, images, IoT signals to your traditional SAP data, your users are interacting with the data in different forms. When you bring and enable this and make it easier for them to not only use them, but make decisions, that's when you have started democratizing it. And these solution bundles, as we have kept industry perspective, and because if you deal with a retailer, e-commerce, they have their unique needs of how they want to manage traffic, how they want to manage inventory. And I'll give you one of those examples of a customer who is using data-driven decision making to run their day-to-day business operations. So so we have looked at each business industry and bundled variations of this accordingly. And when our customers are doing this, if they are focused on problems, on better way of solving the demand planning problems so that they don't end up with excess and shortages. And if they have the right inventory, then they're able to deliver fast. And if they're able to accomplish all this, maybe they can even improve their margins and adjust their pricing dynamically. All of this with the goal of improving profitability. Now, we spoke about how it's important to bring data into one place like BigQuery, and then enable that feeds your machine learning models of different kinds. And when you imagine solving these problems, you know that you have various data, whether it's internal or external, supply chain, finance, sales. Start looking at your business in an integrated manner. There's one more thing our customers are also trying to accomplish. If you remember, one of the points that Amit made was hiring people for analysis and all those. So now, where do they do their analysis? Some of those analysis, if you are democratizing it, you need a data science platform. We'll touch upon that through Vertex AI, not only for enabling models, but pipeline and many of the other things that you can accomplish, your data scientists can accomplish as they adopt this platform. All of this, we have been able to enable customers because we have understood the full journey of a customer's life cycle. For example, like Cisco, Levi's, AB InBev, many of them we enabled their transformation journey many years back, starting all the way from 2017. Now, some of the more recent ones, the Kohl's, Ulta Beauty, these kind of retailers, they are in their journey at different stages. Irrespective of what size of business you are, it all starts with a vision of what is AI, and with respect to your business, how do you imagine that to be? And we have to come in and demystify that. It's there's yes, it looks magical, but here is what really happens under the hood. When you understand your ROI and apply the right use cases, you will lead to a right outcome. Technology is given in the sense Google technology platform is far ahead of the market needs for at a broad level, because this is a proven platform where Google search engine, YouTube, everything runs with half the world's data at scale. So for us, it's less question about can the platform do it. It's more about can we fit the business for the platform so that the business, the chances of outcome and adoption goes up. Now let's talk about some of the key technologies that we see our customers adopting a lot. At the heart of it is BigQuery. There are 300 plus GCP components, but the ones where for this data-driven transformation, the ones that matter more are like the likes of BigQuery. And to give a quick introduction, in case you want to know more about BigQuery, it's a serverless data warehousing architecture, which underneath has multiple Google capabilities which have evolved over time. And this becomes a hub for your machine learning model. Of course, your machine learning model can read write from various different sources depending on how you set up your workflow, but this is an important element to be aware of. Amit, do you want to add anything about BigQuery before I progress?
Yeah, one thing I will add is like BigQuery is a serverless data warehouse. And when people think about data warehouses, you think that, hey, these are major investments and we have to spend a lot of money and this will be a multi-year decision. Well, the good thing about BigQuery is because it is serverless, you can start even if you have very small amount of data. If you have 5 GB of data and you want to drive insight from that data, you want to do some machine learning on that data and see if it's a viable solution, you can get started with BigQuery right away. And BigQuery will just seamlessly scale. We have customers actually who have close to exabytes of data in production within BigQuery. So it can seamlessly scale depending on your need without you having to make a long-term commitments, right? So if you are someone who likes to experiment with new solutions or someone who has a use case either on data analytics or AI machine learning, then BigQuery is a great platform to start with. There are a lot of differentiating capabilities that make BigQuery unique, but we will not go deeper in that today. Definitely take a look at our public documentations, which are available around BigQuery. But let's talk about a bit about BigQuery ML.
Thank you, Amit. When you think about, like the kind of data that you might want to bring in and how your data resides, there are many different places and locations where these data resides. Whether you leverage BigQuery data transfer service or data fusion, you can bring these different data sources, erase data from the source, whether in the form of CSV to videos to files to images, doesn't matter. You can bring it into one common cloud platform where you can enable some of these capabilities. BQML, right? When I talk about democratizing, it all comes down to the skill set and people. What are they able to do with the knowledge that they have? How can you get closer to what people are able to do rather than having to teach them a whole bunch of machine learning skills, which is made to sound unique for the most part in the world? For the most of the problems in the world, you do not need deep learning skills at depth. That's where these platforms have become simpler, right? And we'll touch upon BQML a little bit so that you get a glimpse of how this has got simpler, as simple as using a SQL or even simpler. Amit, do you want to add anything about this?
So when we take a look at BigQuery machine learning, so it does support a wide variety of machine learning models, right? And it's not an experimental product. We have like thousands of customers who are actually using BigQuery machine learning to build their ML models in productions, right? When I talked earlier about the challenges with machine learning, one of the challenge is that basically you have data in different systems. So you have to keep them moving across different systems. So if you have data in data lake or data warehouse, you have to move somewhere else to do machine learning, right? You have to do pre-processing using a different technology, and your machine learning models are built using very different technology. Then you have to kind of take another step and deploy a machine learning model, figure out how you're going to host that model, how you're going to do predictions. What BigQuery ML does is it kind of brings all of that together. So if your data resides in BigQuery, you can do your pre-processing on the data using SQL in BigQuery. Your machine learning models are built in BigQuery using SQL. And once the models are built, they are automatically hosted in BigQuery for predictions, which you can, of course, do using SQL, right? And these are the list of all the models supported within BigQuery. We support something as complex as hyperparameter tuning. And these all solutions integrate very nicely with Vertex AI and Google Cloud Platform. One thing I will highlight is like Google is a firm believer in open ecosystem. If you build a model in BigQuery, it is automatically hosted there, but you can export these models and serve it anywhere you like. You can export these models, serve it on Google Cloud, or export it and serve on other cloud platforms, on-prem, wherever you like. Or if you have built a model in TensorFlow on your local machines or somewhere else, you can actually import these models from outside and serve in BigQuery as well. So it provides you a great degree of flexibility in terms of how you want to use it. But the democratization of the AI and ML becomes very, very impactful using BigQuery.
Thank you, Amit. That was very helpful. The democratization, especially a lot of these models where people would have heard of it, now when they can enable that in a simpler platform, that's amazing. Now let's give them a quick demo. When you if you take a step back and reflect on all the conversation we have had so far, it's the 3 or 4 themes that stand out. You need to define the problem. It could be a demand forecasting, it could be an inventory planning. Then you need to have the platform and bring the data in. And once you bring the data in, then now you have the power to enable BQML, and we'll give you a glimpse of that and generate the forecast. In this demo, there are 2 things that we'll highlight. One is enabling the data science platform itself and giving you a glimpse of what does a data lake or a data warehouse of BigQuery look like. Then we'll talk about Vertex AI platform. What does that look like? What is building a model and deploying the model? And what's the framework? Where do you host that, right? So you got your data in, you know how to host and manage your models. Now that's at the foundational level. As a part of our solution, when we are solving a demand forecasting problem, not only do we set up this data science platform for you, but we actually walk you through how to go about getting your data, managing your models, how to run your BQML and deploy those models and manage those models, as well as how to serve the output in different forms, depending on how your users want the output of the model to be. Do they want to consume in a dashboard? Do they want to take the output, go into query the output themselves in BigQuery? Or they want to have they're used to Excel, they don't log it to any cloud console. Can you serve that in a Google Sheet or in a Q&A system? There are many variations of this. Let's start with the data lake. With BigQuery Data Lake, essentially what we mentioned is it is a serverless data warehouse. You can bring both your internal and external data in one place. Once you get the data in one place, now it's really about how can you build your ML models and deploy the models. Now this platform, what I'm showing is all the consoles or tabs that I'm opening is all Google Cloud. And in the Vertex AI, you can not only build the models, bring the data set, build the models, build the pipelines, train the models, and deploy the models and manage the models and the metadata and all of those. Pluto 7 has been instrumental in doing the alpha testing and until the launch, and we are excited to see how this is getting widely adopted. Now, when you think about the inputs and the outputs and all those, let's jump directly into um, the solution. And here, whether you have internal or external data set, if you remember, you're bringing all this data into one place, and then you're building models. The models could be a custom model, AutoML based model, or a BQML model. So we'll give you a glimpse of those. Now, keep in mind, all of these you are managing in either in Vertex AI or directly some of them you'll be playing around in BigQuery. Now, when it comes to the BigQuery BQML, think about this way, right? You have input data that you're going to get in. In this case, we'll take shipment and we'll predict whether the shipment will be on time or delayed. And then you will have the pre-processing of the data so that you make it ready for the model. Then you have a model for classification and finally the results. And if you look at this, your raw data might have many different attributes. And these attributes or features or columns, however you want to call them, they have signals in them, right? As in, here is the shipment data. There are signals of who was on time, which partner or vendor was delivered on time, so that your demand forecast is fulfilled, or which ones will be delayed. So now when you start thinking about it, now you're going to build a model to predict which vendor is going to be on time or delayed. So you might want to clean up the data a bit. And again, you're doing all of this in BigQuery. And when you clean up the data, you organize the data such that you know what you want to predict. And this is your historical signal of whether a vendor was on time, delayed, or will arrive early. Once you have this in place and your model is ready, you now, in this case, it's a classification model where the model itself, you'll have, if as you look at it, you can play around with the model accuracy, the evaluation, and it'll, depending on your data, depending on the steps that you take in structuring the model, you can get to the accuracy level that is desired. Getting to a 99% or 100% accuracy is not always the goal. Getting to an accuracy better than the humans is the goal, because then you have beat the human threshold. Now, as you think about it, when all of this model is built on in SQL, and the SQL looks like, the SQL that majority of the workforce in an enterprise is used to, it's not only about preparing those, bringing those data and the view, creating those views, but creating the model itself is a simple SQL like this, where you create the model and you define the kind of model that you're creating. In this case, a logistics regression, or you can have your classification models and different variations that Amit mentioned earlier. Then to make a prediction of the ML output is again a SQL. So that's the power of BigQuery ML, where you're able to get all your inputs and outputs and running the model, training the model, all managed through SQL in BigQuery. So hope that gives you the glimpse of BigQuery ML, which runs everything on SQL. Now, at the end of it, when you want to look at your output, right? Again, you're seeing your output of, here is a vendor or a partner or site where what percentage, what's the chances that they will be on time? There's a 73% chance, arrive early 17%, and delayed 0.9%. That is giving you an or 9%. That is giving you an idea on what's the probability. So this is, I'm going to bet that this one is going to be more on time versus something else, the one which is more delayed here. And you can always compare this with the actuals to see how good the model is. Now, when it comes to the results itself, not all your users will be interacting with console. Some of them may want to just see the results in a dashboard. So for that, we have Looker, right, where you could embed that in a custom UI and show the results of your forecast versus actual in a form of a visual, where you can compare your actual and forecast in a way that your end user community is comfortable viewing it. And you can serve it up and integrate in your existing systems. Now, the key is also sometimes the users might want to play around with the data, connect other SaaS systems or solutions that that Amit mentioned. Irrespective of what you want to do with your output, for example, you have demand, supply, and shipment output. You can even connect with your connected sheets, which gives you the Excel-like experience where you can create your pivot tables. The fundamental difference is that you're doing it in a centralized data rather than people making copies of data. Now, we can go on and on with the demos. There are a lot of capabilities. There's Q&A systems. But essentially, what we are trying to convey here is that the capabilities are there for every level of skill set. Now, let's look at a few customer success stories. California Design Den. What does data-driven transformation for them mean? They run their machine learning model data, everything on Google Cloud. But the end results output, they push it to Amazon.com, which is where they sell the product. These are omni-channel retailers. The net effect is when they are when they have to rank higher, that the ranking higher is picked up based on the output we generate in Google Cloud and pushed it to Amazon.com, which gives them the top ranking and makes them the Amazon choice. Now, forecasting right, demand, supply, price is the key. And these are all done through the BigQuery and the capabilities of BigQML and similar capabilities that we have enabled for them. Similarly, for Coles, we have helped him set up the foundation for their machine learning model innovation to run on top of BigQuery. For Takori, they sell diamond rings and they have to understand the customer's experience, sense demand, and operationalize those capabilities to the line of business users, democratizing AI. Demand planning in the case of grocery store is which product is available, which product is not available, and based on the demand, how do I stock it right? When you start thinking about these scenarios, you might start with solving one problem and then build a whole journey of many problems that you want to solve. But the foundation, the data science foundation, and the platform that you build and leverage is the same. So if you look at this journey, no matter where you are in the journey, like Amit mentioned, there are early adopters to somewhere in between to leaders. We will take you through the journey. And to take you through the journey, the first step is to really go through a workshop, understand your need, and then build a pilot or a POC for you, and then show you how to take you through the journey. As a next step, what we suggest is if you can request a 2-hour complimentary workshop from us, that will help us get into your business, your info, your scenario, and guide you on how to enable this.
Hey
With that,
Manju, if I
yeah,
is this workshop open to everyone, or like are there any terms and conditions where the users have to sign up for anything, or is there no strings attached? How do our users do that? Sign up for this?
the great question, Amit. The workshop itself, there is no strings attached, no commitments. All we look for is customers bringing the right people to the team into the meeting. And depending on the situation, we also invite some Googlers into it, so that we can make a high impact, have a high impact conversation.
Awesome.
If the audience is interested, feel free to reach out to some of the names here or visit our website. And between myself and my team will be glad to help out, as well as Amit and his extended team will be there to help the customers, whether you have a BigQuery ML question or Google Cloud question or anything beyond. With that, Amit, do you want to add anything?
That was amazing. Thanks a lot, Manju. Nothing to add. I'm just super excited about this, and I'll ask our audiences to reach out to us, right? And definitely reach out, look at our documentation to learn more. But feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions, right? I think that if you want to register for that workshop, I think that's going to be pretty amazing. I've heard some great things about those workshops as well. But I'm super excited to see like what our audiences build next using these solutions.
Great. Thank you, and thank you to the audience for taking the time to listen through the stories and get started with the journey. And irrespective of where you're in the journey, there are enough support that Google and Pluto 7 can provide to put you on the right track. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Amit, for the great session.
Thanks, Manju. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.